Breakups aren't painful because someone leaves. They're painful because your mind refuses to let them. I learned that the hardest way possible. If you've ever had your heart broken, you know the feeling. The person you imagine spending years with suddenly becomes someone you can never text again. Overnight, the future you pictured disappears. My first breakup was especially hard. I'd liked this girl for years before we finally started dating. When we did, everything seemed to click. We laughed together, got along effortlessly, and as far as I knew, she liked me too. Even her friends would tell me how highly she spoke about me. Looking back, the relationship itself wasn't perfect, but every drive together felt important. Late night phone calls somehow saw the sunrise. We'd make plans for months that hadn't even happened yet. We talked about concerts, trips, things we'd do after graduation. I didn't just fall in love with a person, I fell in love with the future I thought we were building. Then one afternoon, my phone buzzed. I opened the message and, just like that, it was over. And a few hours later, I found out my mom's cancer had come back. I remember just sitting there. I didn't even know which pain I was supposed to process first. I don't think I've ever felt more defeated in my life. That night I went back and forth between praying, getting angry, and wishing I could simply disappear. Felt like every part of my life had collapsed at once. I went over every little mistake, every little awkward moment, every little detail, and everything I thought went wrong. I was obsessed with finding what I could have done better to not have ruined it all. I stared at my phone for hours, hoping another message would come through. I'd reread our old conversations, looking for clues I'd somehow missed. I'd replay every date in my head, every joke, every awkward silence, every goodbye. Surely there had to be one moment where everything fell apart. I convinced myself that if I could just understand what happened, maybe I could fix it. Everyone tells you that you'll move on, but nobody tells you that first your brain is going to replay the same conversations 400 times. And at my lowest point, I began to question it all. Why was I suffering so much over this? Why could I not think of anything else but a girl who's already moved on? Looking back, I wasn't actually grieving the relationship. I was fighting reality. I couldn't accept that something had happened which I no longer had the power to change. The relationship ended once, and every single day I was ending it again in my own head. The Roman philosopher Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The truth is, we often spend more effort thinking, worrying, and playing into our emotions than actually healing. Real healing begins when we realize there's nothing we can do. Life is outside of our control, and no action will change what has happened or will happen. The one thing we do control is how we respond. We don't choose every emotion that appears, but we do choose whether we feed it. And understanding this leads to real power. Every time I saw her laughing, I had two choices. I could spend the next 3 hours imagining she never cared, or I could remind myself, that's outside of my control. My response isn't. The day I stopped trying to change the past was the day I finally started living in the present. She didn't come back. My life didn't magically become easy. My mom was still sick. But I wasn't carrying yesterday everywhere I went anymore. And strangely, that gave me hope. When I finally gave up trying to resist something that had already happened, I became free from my thoughts. At the beginning of this video, I said breakups aren't painful because someone leaves. They're painful because our minds refuse to let them. And maybe that's the good news. Because while you can't control who walks out of your life, you can decide whether they continue living in your mind. In life, you can't control who leaves, but you can decide whether they take your peace with them. That's why I don't think this lesson is entirely about relationships, because eventually, every one of us loses something. A relationship, a friendship, a dream we spent years chasing, someone we love. Life has a way of taking things from us without asking whether we're ready. We don't get to decide when that happens. But we do get to decide whether we spend the next year fighting reality or learning to live with it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." For a long time, I hated that idea. How could heartbreak ever become something good? Looking back, I think I understand. Without that breakup, I probably never would have discovered the ideas that helped me through some of the hardest moments of my life. And sometimes, the thing we wish had never happened becomes the reason we become so much stronger.